Hey guys, it's here bringing you another video. Now welcome to another kind of game dev update, quick gameplay thoughts video. I actually have been increasingly liking to do these. One, because Riot, I don't know, maybe for the past like year or so has done more of these, it seems, that they want to be more vocal and kind of talk about their like philosophies of design, and I really appreciate that. So that's a massive thumbs up from me, and I think most of the player base, if any of the dev team is at all listening, which is possible. I also learned, by the way, if I'm not mistaken, why do they use Scion here every single time? Nothing to do with Scion. Apparently, Riot Scruffy, who is Mark Yetter, for those that know, he's, you know, his titles will be down here, the design lead, Summoner's Rift champions and competitive, all that stuff. He is like the guy who is in charge of all that. So balance also in a way. He's obviously leaving to go to the MMO team, I believe. But why is it Scion? He's a Scion main, I believe. So that's why he uses Scion as his kind of signature, as it were. So when we get a new lead person, when they do the quick gameplay thoughts, which I really hope they still do, whoever takes over, we'll probably get a new champion here or something. So that'll be kind of interesting. But this whole chat is about mobility reduction and philosophy, because obviously League is a pretty mobile game. I've played pretty much every single MOBA out there: Dota, Smite, hell, there was a DC universe one years ago, and I would say out of all of them, Heroes of the Storm, League is probably the most mobile, because, you know, we do have Flash innately in most of our champions. I think 95% maybe champions take Flash. That right there increases mobility in the game. A lot of movement speed abilities, dash abilities, but on the other flip side, there are also a lot of ways to reduce that too. So let's see what Riot is going on about mobility, because it's a really good topic to kind of talk about. Some people did say, am I going to react to the League how we balance video that they did? I think it was how to balance for bronzies or something like that Riot made a video. I mean, just very quick thoughts about it. It's a really good video. If you've not watched it, go do. I think it's on the League of Legends YouTube channel. And by philosophy, yes, that's how you balance a game. That's how Riot wants to balance the game. But I don't think it always works in the picture-perfect way, is what I would say. There are champions that slip through the cracks for whatever reason. And I also think Riot has been too reliable on data in the last year or two. That sometimes you actually need just to go off the feel of the game also. But that's all I will say with that. But anyway, here we go. Mobility philosophy. Mobility is one of the fundamental building blocks of League combat, which is, yeah, as we said, true, on both an exciting and necessary tool to keep players at range or close in as melee. There are places where mobility has crept up, including a few items that have gone beyond the limits of where they should be. Galeforce cough. I wanted to walk through some of our higher level philosophies around mobility while we're working on trimming paths to bring the live game closer to our ideal. So that is worth knowing. You know, write that sentence. A designer or a company is never going to kind of say we've mucked up, things are bad, oh my god. But for Riot to even just say, like, we're going to do things to bring the game closer to ideal, that means they don't think the game right now is in a good or ideal place. And that's kind of interesting. So yes, there is a lot of mobility in the game. I always said, and I said it ages ago, excuse my throat, when I was in the meeting with Riot before the Mythic items came out, and if you're not aware, Riot invited a bunch of content creators and press and everybody, and they do this occasionally, I've been in quite a few of them, to talk about the upcoming updates of the game. Do a Q&A, kind of, you know, I think as a company it's a good idea to get the content creators on your side, because we, a lot of the time, can voice opinions, and then a lot of you guys, your opinions may kind of be molded from what we say sometimes. So if they can kind of talk to the content creators, get them on board, I think that's kind of the idea, then that's a good thing. When I was in that meeting, I was maybe one or maybe two of the only people that asked a more negative question about the new items. And I actually literally asked, are you not worried that these new mythic items are just going to be kind of getting rid of weaknesses that should be there in champions that have weaknesses? And I think the example I gave was Jinx or Jhin, that they're in a mobile AD carry, they don't have a dash ability like an Ezreal E, yet you're then giving them Gale Force, which then makes an immobile AD carry who does a lot of damage. That's why they do a lot of damage, is you can balance the kit going high damage, but is easily killed because no mobility, but now you're giving them mobility with an item. Are you not worried about that? And they didn't really answer the question. So that's what I would say. They didn't really answer the question. They kind of just like, no, we think it's okay. And then that was basically it. There was no explanation why it's okay, nothing. And there are examples right now that, yes, there are mythic items that are covering off weaknesses that champions used to have, including the example I gave all the way back then. I have seen Jins absolutely wreck face, or a Twitch. There was a Reddit clip the other day of a Twitch killing 4 champions, literally mainly because of Gale Force that he dodged quite a lot of CC. I don't know, dude. But anyway, also got now something in my eye. I'm falling apart. Great uses of mobility. So this is the good cases of it. So okay, interesting. Mobility paired with weakness or weaknesses. Lower range, lower damage, lower defenses. This makes the champion with mobility have to choose its fight choosing power effectively, because they won't necessarily win a face one-on-one against a less mobile champion. So yeah, if you don't have any range, if you have no damage, and you have lower defenses, then sometimes you need that mobility to make up for it. Sure. Systemic, there we go. Mobility with clear opportunity cost. Like the previous, when adding mobility through items or runes, it should be significant trade-off against the other options that offer more of the other attributes the champions want. So yeah, what they're saying is, let's use the Gale Force example because it might be the best one. Gale Force gives you mobility, but obviously the item is still giving you stats. If you don't take Kraken Slayer, then you're getting less tank killing pressure. If you don't go shield bow, then you technically are less tanky from having the shield. But in reality, a Jin is never going to take Kraken Slayer because he has 4 shots and it's not constant auto attack damage. And yes, shield bow, sure, but for really good players that can use the mobility to dodge damage rather than just take the damage, Gale Force is practically the best option in every single scenario. So again, that kind of also goes back to the bigger conversation that we've had in this season of Riot is trying to, make diversity in builds. Not really. I will be honest, I know none of this is not what this conversation is. I've seen it on Reddit, I've seen it on Twitter. The mythic items to me have done nothing when it comes to diversity in item builds, like at all. Like, I don't know what it was supposed to do, but I don't know. Next up is mobility with constraints. Extreme high mobility can be offered in a healthy way if it comes with situational constraints. Only allowing the mobility pop off through risky, aggressive, or contextual use allows players as and against to build strategies before and during fights. A good example of this would be Aurelia Q versus minions, Tristana W reset, and Gasp SOE. Bad example we removed was Akali's are originally being untargeted, giving her incredible engage and escape power simultaneously. So yeah, that is true. Obviously, they gutted the rework Akali kit because it was just far too strong. But yeah, so they have removed some where they think that is too much mobility to have the Akali ultimate like that. They can remove them, but their good examples is Aurelia Q, Tristana W, and Yasuo E. So again, what they're saying, and why is this constraint mobility? Because some people go, oh, Aurelia is crazy. What Riot is saying is Aurelia's mobility is fine because there's only use cases she can be really mobility or mobile if there's minions. If you choose not to fight an Aurelia within minions, then her mobility is very much lessened, which is true. Same with Tristana. For her to get the W reset, she needs to obviously either get that, I think it's get a kill, or let her E completely blow up. I think that's a way of doing it as well. And then Yasuo E, much like Aurelia, he's only going to go kind of dashing everywhere if there's a lot of minions or a lot of champions in the area. And obviously, if there's a lot of minions, then you're sometimes choosing to take the fight with a lot of minions. If there's a lot of champions, then there are champions there to shut down the mobility. So, yeah, I mean, I'm okay with that. That's fair news. Very long cooldowns for mobility. By adding extremely long cooldowns, we can actually break class weaknesses with systemic mobility. If the opportunity to go beyond what is the norm, what normal is, a rare and precious action, it adds strategic excitement. So the best example here is Flash. It's a 5-minute cooldown. So, that's kind of, you are Jin. Every 5 minutes, you can, flash out of a skill shot or a Malphite ultimate or something like that. And I'm okay with that. Flash has been completely embedded into the game. It's the norm of League of Legends. I don't think it's ever going to go away. But that's where, I'm sorry for sounding like a broken record here. Gale Force. So I think Gale Force has a either 60 or 90-second cooldown. It might even be less. I'm actually going to look it up right now because I don't want to be wrong. Can I look it up right now? Oh, I can't. Oh, hang on. Where's my phone? Okay, we're going to look it up right now. Let's see. Gale Force League. So, Gale Force League of Legends. It is a 60. Well, no, that's the damage. 90 seconds. Okay, yeah, so I was right. It was a 90 seconds cooldown. So a minute and a half. So their best. Wait, the best and only example here is Flash. It's not, because Gale Force, right? Maybe I'm not seeing something connecting, but again, adding extremely long cooldown, we can break class weaknesses. That's what they're saying. You're breaking a class weakness, which is Gale Force. Again, I've given the examples of immobile AD carries. I have seen immobile AD carries that they would have got hit by CC where they haven't because of the item, and voila. So no, Flash is not the only example now. Gale Force exists. Hell, Prowler's Claw partially exists now too. You know, has anybody seen that Renekton already quite a mobile champion? I have seen Renektons literally, and I'm not even kidding, go after somebody who had a dash ability and they used Flash and Renekton caught them. And yes, Renekton has his double E. He has, I don't even think he flashed, but he had Prowler's Claw, all of that stuff, and he caught the other champion that like dashed away, flashed away, everything. But Renekton was like, hi, I'm still here. How you doing? Like, there are examples more than Flash right now, and whether they're healthy or not, that is the debatable point. But Riot is obviously not giving that example. Poor uses of mobility, so maybe they give that in here. Let's see. So, oh, here we go. So maybe this is the opposite. So mobility that breaks class weaknesses. So that is my main point. Is there is definitely items and things like that that like they lessen the weakness that should exist. So some classes, like Juggernauts, are built with exceptional strength around their lack of mobility, which obviously makes sense. Offering them too much mobility via runes or items can break both the expectations of players in the game and the intended weaknesses of the class. That doesn't mean they can never be offered mobility. It has been done with extra care. Mobility in particular is an area we pushed too far with the item update and its follow-up, and are trimming partial focus on this space. Wow, okay, well there we go, ladies and gentlemen. So Riot has right there just said we went a bit too far with mobility. Because again, another example, Stridebreaker, one of the MVP items of top lane right now. You know, I've said recently in commentaries, Teemo used to be a really annoying champion for many players in League. I have not really seen a Teemo this season. I've not heard about Teemo this season. Why? Because he can't exist in top lane anymore. He just can't. If someone goes like an average bruiser, who a really good bruiser before the new items could be a Teemo, but you'd need to be smart about it. Like a Darius could be a Teemo, but you'd have to be really smart and careful. You'd probably have to buy rejuvenation in the early game and really wait a few items. Nowadays, you just get one item. You get Stridebreaker and Teemo is screwed. That's the point. It gives that mobility and lessens their mobility too. So it is, I will say, I'm actually quite happy that Riot has even on text. We've got it right here in text. We went too far with mobility. Again, arguably they went too far in other areas too. Omnivamp is just another example. But that has actually made me incredibly happy to hear. Because I'm one, maybe you can tell in this video, who knows. I'm not still happy with the new items. I don't think the game has been balanced at all. It's still League of One Shot. The damage is too high, still to this day. So damage, mobility, and Omnivamp, I'd say, are maybe the three triangles that I think they should kind of focus on the most, but we'll see. But they're going to be trimming the mobility at least. Mobility tuning that creeps beyond the game norms. We have established ranges, movement speeds, dash ranges, and dash speeds across champions and items. It would be a problem if the mobility tools of a new champion or items are always just slightly stronger than the mobility tools of existing stuff and items, because that cheating compounds over time and significantly shifts the average mobility in the game. Yes, so basically what they're saying, if they release, and remember this is the bad examples or poor examples of mobility, if they release a new champion that is just slightly faster with a dash or slightly faster base movement speed than anything else in the game. What that's going to do is just slowly creep up the mobility to that level over time. And that would be bad. We do not need more mobility in League of Legends. So Riot are aware that we can't do that. And to be fair, you know, it is quite rare. Is it quite rare? I mean, yeah, new champions in League of Legends, most of them have some big type of mobility spell, you know. Yone has his E, which I guess is technically a mobile spell. His ultimate, very fast mobile spell. Lilia was, you know, she's mobile in a different way. She runs really fast. You know, what champion has been relatively new? Again, I could be going blank, but what has been new that doesn't have mobility? Gwen, but yeah, no, she has an E that's mobile. I can't, on my top of my head, of recent, and you know, I think of recent champions within the last 2 years, if I'm completely, you know, completely honest. We're playing this game for 10 odd years. Yeah, the last 2 years of champions I would still consider new. Yumi, you know, she can dash on champions, so yeah. It's very rare to have an immobile champion within its kit nowadays, I would say. And then the other one is too much unconstrained mobility. Both low cooldown and freedom of targeting can make mobility an overly powerful tool with no good answer for opponents. If a champion can always choose when to be in and out of fights, Echo, they can never take risks or commit to an all-in. The closest we probably have to this is a level 16 Kassadin, but in this case he has to survive a disadvantaged early game to reach that level of mobility. So this is the counter I would say to that. I, yes, agree, level 6 Kassadin, or a lot of players call him Kassa Win. He is known in the game of being, oh god, do not let that champion get to level 16. He is going to rift walk everywhere, and what the hell are you going to do? The counter to this is Riot is saying, oh, he's got a really bad early game. If you let him get to level 16, it's kind of your fault anyway. You know, don't let the game get to level 16 Kassadin. My counter to that is it doesn't even have to be level 16 Kassadin anymore. Yes, that's the big buff to it. It's the 3rd rank in Ultimate. But with how the game is nowadays, of how strong items are, there is no early game, practically. You know, I've seen Kog'Maws beat lane bullies. I've seen Kaels beat lane bullies. After getting the first item, the game is mid-game now. And, like, late-game champions aren't bad in mid-game at all, just with how strong these items are. So a Kassadin doesn't feel that weak even 10 minutes into the game. He can probably do okay. Like, that's the point. So, yes, level 16 Kassadin is scary with mobility and damage, etc. But so is level 8 Kassadin after getting his first item. I think that's maybe what Riot are missing here, is that they have really got rid of the early game in a lot of cases. That if you're playing an early game champion and you have a Kassadin in the early game, you better get really fed and end the game at 20 minutes. Like, that's the point. If you don't, then it's like, oh, well, I guess we lose this one then. But yeah, quite interesting, though, that they do think Kassadin is the closest, but they think he has a disadvantage early game. Again, I would probably put Echo in that ring. I've always said Echo can go in, one-shot people, have his W stun, etc. Then he's about to die. He presses ultimate, I'll see you later. Like, that's also, you know, that right here, you know, if they have over mobility and they have choices of when to go in and out, which like Echo does, he can go in, you know, with his E and probably rocket belt, and then he can go out with his ultimate. What's the answer a lot of the time? Yes, the answer is CC, but what happens if you're a champion with no CC? Or what happens if you get one shot and then he just ultimates away before he can get killed by the other team? I've seen that happen many a time. That's mobility right there. But arguably, that could be mobility also cross-pollinating with damage. Maybe the answer to that would be lessen the damage, because then Echo wouldn't be able to jump in, one shot, ult out before anything is done to him. So maybe, yes, that is cross-pollinated with damage being also too high. How did we get here? It's necessary to push the test limits of the game to find great improvements, but that does mean that sometimes we will go too far and need to pull back. So we're working on a few changes to trim down on small instances of mobility creep and a few larger ones where we think we push too far in terms of breaking class weaknesses. Look for those in the next patches. So yeah, my guesses for this, Lightbringer, I reckon, is also going to get changed again because the weakness of a Juggernaut should be very immobile, where Lightbringer just kind of, again, ruins that fantasy. It makes a big Juggernaut do a dash and slow his opponent, right? Not anything to do with the champion's kit. That's more about the item than doing it, not the class. We've mentioned it many times in this video. Like, Gale Force has to be one of these. Like, they've not mentioned it in this whole article, which I'm a bit surprised about. That does worry me a little bit. But, you know, breaking class weaknesses, AD carries should be relatively immobile. And some people may say, like, oh god, you know, AD carries have had a bad time this season because they're getting killed all the time. The Gale Force aids to that. We're talking about mobility here, and I think Gale Force is unhealthy for mobility of a class that should be immobile. The different topic that also needs to be on the back end of this is, yes, the damage. The damage is too high. That's not to do with mobility, that's to do with damage. So hopefully we get another article in 2 weeks going, okay, now quick gameplay thoughts, damage. And then they go, okay, we went too far with damage, we're going to tone it down again. So that's what I would say. They're two different topics that do kind of intertwine on each other, which is quite interesting. But that's going to be it. Let me know what you guys think down below. A very interesting topic, and I very much appreciate Riot for doing these. So Riot Scruffy, I think, is leaving maybe in this upcoming month as the desired lead for Summoners Rift Champions and competitive teams. So I would say thank you very much to him. Obviously, it's not an easy job. I personally wouldn't want it. So whoever is the the upcoming, hopefully they are also very communicative, sure, because Riot Scruffy is very on Twitter and posting, and arguably you could be like, maybe Riot should have more like official channels for talking to players, not just Twitter. But I love these articles. Like, this is a way of doing it. So hell yeah. Anyway, that's going to be it. If you guys did enjoy, do throw a like on the video. Let me know your comments down below, as this is what this type of video is all about. But yeah, like, comment, subscribe. See you guys next time. Peace.